So as I said at the very beginning, I'm going to talk about Mary, the mother of Jesus, in the context of the Divine Mother. And next week, I'm going to talk about Anandamoya Ma. Mary kind of personifies, embodies the Divine Mother in the West and Anandamoya Ma in the East. So we're going to go deep tonight. Okay? Not deep in a confusing way, but deep in a spiritual way. So don't just listen with your head, but listen with your heart and your soul. Feel the truth of what I hope will be spoken. So let me start here, because my guess is some of you are thinking, oh, this is Catholic night at the Assisi Institute. Okay, don't be small-minded. All right. What does Genesis say? Very first chapters of Genesis, not just in the Christian Bible, but in the Jewish Bible. It said that God created them, Adam and Eve, male and female. In his image did he create them. I talked about this, I think, last week or a few weeks back, that God, prior to creation, God transcending creation, there's no evolution there. God is completely whole and beyond any description, any words, any concepts. God is just this unified field of, again, words can't express it, a unified field of infinite consciousness, a unified field of infinite love. But as God enters time and space, that divine light that is one bifurcates into masculine and feminine energy. Masculine consciousness and feminine consciousness. Now, don't confuse masculine and feminine with genders. It's part of the confusion in our society today. Right? Masculine does not equal male. Feminine does not equal female. You can be a male and have a feminine temperament. It doesn't not make you a male. You can be a female with a masculine temperament. It doesn't not make you a female. Okay? So we're not talking about genders. We're talking about the very energy of God, that light of God, the being of God entering time and space bifurcates to masculine and feminine. Therefore, in our spiritual life, if we don't have a balance between the masculine and the feminine, and I'll describe that in a little bit, something is out of balance. All right, so let me, because again, I don't want you to think this is Catholic night at the Assisi Institute, okay? Let me go to Yogananda, a Hindu. He heard about this enlightened person who is devoted to the Divine Mother. His name was Master Mahasaya, not Lahiri, same name, different person. So he went to his house because he was interested and drawn to the Divine Mother. Beyond reach of doubt, I was convinced that Master Mahasaya was an intimate converse with the Universal Mother. It was deep humiliation to realize that my eyes were blind to her, who even at this moment was perceptible to the fathomless gaze of this saint. Shamelessly, so Yogananda goes to his house, doesn't realize that he's deep in communion with the Divine Mother. Shamelessly gripping his feet, deaf to his gentle remonstrances, I besought him again and again for his intervening grace. And then he answered, the saint answered, I will make your plea to the beloved. The Master's words came with a slow and compassionate smile. What power in those few words, that my being should know release from my stormy exile. He was longing for a connection with the Divine Mother, Yogananda. Sir, remember your pledge. I shall return soon for her message. Joyful anticipation rang in my voice which only a moment ago had been stubbornly choked with sorrow. Descending down the long stairway, I was overwhelmed by memories. This house in Calcutta on 50 Amherst Street, now the residence of Master Mahasaya, had once been my family home, the scene of my mother's death. Here my human hours had broken for the vanished mother. And here today my spirit had been as though crucified by the absence of the Divine Mother. Hallowed walls, silent witness of my grievous hurts and final healing. I think he was a little bit dramatic, wouldn't you say that? My steps were eager as I returned home, seeking the seclusion of my small attic. I remained in meditation until 10 o'clock at night. The darkness of the warm Indian night was suddenly lit with a wondrous vision. Hallowed in splendor, the Divine Mother stood before me. Her face, tenderly smiling, was beauty itself. And then she said to Yogananda, "Always have I loved you. Ever shall I love you." The celestial tone still ringing in the air, she disappeared. And in the morning came, he goes back to the house of the saint, Master Mahasaya. "Sir, I have come very early, I confess, for your message. Did the beloved mother say anything about me?" Mischievous little boy, little sir. Not another remark he made. Apparently, my assumed gravity was unimpressive. Why so mysterious and so evasive? Do saints never speak plainly? Perhaps I was a little provoked. "Must you test me?" the saint said. His calm eyes were full of understanding. "Might I add a single word this morning to the assurance you received last night at 10 o'clock from the beautiful mother herself?" Right? So Yogananda had a visitation from the Divine Mother. It wasn't a ghost. It wasn't an archetype. It was the Divine Mother. And Yogananda had many visions of her throughout his life. Many, many years ago, when Vicky and I spent an afternoon with Brother Ananda Moy down at the Mother Center in L.A., a direct disciple of Yogananda, he told us about this experience that many of the disciples who were living at the Mother Center in L.A., they felt mysteriously drawn to Yogananda's room. And when they entered his room, his bedroom, he was in ecstatic communication with the Divine Mother and relaying messages from her to them. So there's a reality to this whole understanding of the Divine Mother. And if we don't have a balance between the Divine Father and the Divine Mother, our spirituality will be amiss. It'll be incomplete. I'm not going to quote it, but let me go to the Jewish scriptures, the book of Proverbs. It talks about how important wisdom is. And it tells us to love wisdom above all else. And you know what? It talks about divine wisdom as she. She will bless you. She will guide you. She will direct you. She will protect you. She will take care of you. And then a little bit further on in the book of Proverbs, it says that at the very that perhaps God's first creation was this Divine Mother, this divine aspect of God, and that she was helping God with the creative process. Again, a feminine form, a feminine manifestation. So let me try to explain this, and then we'll dive into Mary. How does God interact in the world? God doesn't do things in an immediate causal way. God creates angels, avatars, the Divine Mother, as a way of interacting with us in creation. You get that? Very important. Again, think of God in his absolute form, outside of creation. So God creates these mediators who do God's work in time and space, in creation. Again, angels would be an example of that. At the very beginning, God created, and the translation from the Old Testament into the Greek is Sophia. Wisdom, the feminine aspect of God, assisting in creation. So let me talk about the difference here between the masculine and the feminine. When we talk about masculine wisdom, we're talking about rational wisdom. We're talking about truth. We're talking about logic. And it has the effect of being something strict, clear, without any compromise. And the emphasis is almost on justice and karma. When we talk about this divine wisdom, this Sophia, and it's actually a being, not an archetype, it's a being. One of the first beings that God created, assisting God in the creative process. That's what the Bible tells us. And the wisdom of Sophia is a more gentle, intuitive wisdom mixed with compassion and mercy and life. All right. I'll give you an example from my life. I've told this story before. I went to a Catholic school. When I was in third grade, I was kicked out of school. I was expelled. It was a long walk home that night, or that afternoon. And my father worked nights, so he was there when I got home from school. And the first thing he said to me was, "You were a bad boy. There will be consequences." Okay. My mother came home, and she said, "I never liked that nun anyways." Do you get that? It's not that my mother was all soft, because in many ways she was wiser than my father. But it's a feminine, intuitive, merciful kind of wisdom that is also strong and powerful and creative. It's not an idea. It's not reduced to an archetype. I know I keep on saying this, but I want you to get this. Sophia is a being of the highest order, emanating from God to assist God in the evolution of life here on planet Earth. Does that make sense? Okay. So now let's bring this to Mary. In the West, Mary is the face of Sophia. We could say in yoga, Ananda Moyama is the face of Sophia, but Mary is the face of Sophia, and I will explain this more and more as I get into Mary's life. But Mary is the embodiment of Sophia in the West. So let me talk a little bit about Mary's life. So we see how this Sophia manifests itself in her life, because it's supposed to manifest in our life too. And it's supposed to manifest in the collective life of the Assisi Institute. Yogananda dedicated all of his work to the Divine Mother. Francis of Assisi dedicated all of his work to the Blessed Mother. And many, many years ago, before we were in this building, we had a big ceremony one Sunday where we dedicated the work of the Assisi Institute to the Divine Mother in the form of Mary and Ananda Moyama. Okay? All right. I told you, we're going deep, but it's good. So let's talk about Mary. The first mention of Mary in the New Testament is when the angel Gabriel appears to her. And we see her process of growth, which is supposed to mirror our process of growth. The first thing that the angel says is, "Hail Mary, you have found favor with the Lord. And the Holy Spirit is going to come upon you, and you will bear a son. His name is Jesus." Will be Jesus. He is the Son of the Most High. And he will bring many people back to God. Now, you got to understand, it's important. Mary's maybe 15. She's a Jewish girl. Her real name was Miriam, not Mary. And She wasn't married. She was betrothed, but she wasn't married. Now, if you get pregnant and you're not married, the way the Jewish law was interpreted at that time, you could be stoned to death, killed. So this little 14, 15, 16-year-old girl, filled with courage, what was her response to the angel? Let it be done unto me according to what you have said. So the first thing I want to say about how the Divine Mother, how Sophia shows up in our lives and in human history, she begets life. And not just biological life, but qualitative life, divine energy. She shows up and her grace begets and brings life. So, just like Mary, if we are going to work with the grace of the Divine Mother, we have to be consistently open to new manifestations of God's life in our life, individually and collectively. We should never think that we have experienced the last manifestation of the divine life in our lives. We should never think that God can't do something else in us and through us and with us, that there's always something more that can be manifested in us. See, if our spirituality becomes about control and constriction, and we overemphasize the stable, the masculine side, there's no life, nothing new can flow. Does it make sense what I'm saying? So Mary availed herself to the life, to the grace of the Divine Mother, of Sophia, of the Holy Spirit. And she begat life. Again, I want to just bring this to the Assisi Institute for a moment. I drive the staff crazy here because I'm always coming up with new ideas. One more expression of Yogananda's teachings, and one more expression, a way that we can manifest a divine life in our midst. All right? And sometimes they have to play the fatherly role with me and say, okay, slow down. You know, we haven't finished your last 5 projects yet, so before we begin another project. All right? But the point is, if we are going to remain a vital spiritual community at some level, we always have to be open to new inspiration and new life. And it can't just come from me. It's got to come from all of you, too. God will speak to you as much as God speaks to me. The Divine Mother will inspire you as much as the Divine Mother inspires me. So we got to be open to life. The second thing with Mary, and this is very important. Again, I won't read it. It's called the Magnificat. But after the angel appeared to her, shortly after that, she composes this beautiful prayer. And she says, my soul magnifies the Lord. He has done great things for me. Part of how we know that we are open to that divine life, to the grace of the Divine Mother, is that we will have joy in us. We will have gratitude. We will magnify God's presence. St. Francis of Assisi said, a sad saint is a sad saint indeed. Okay? And actually, a sad saint and a saint in sadness, it's an oxymoron. I'm not saying that life is always going to be easy, but as Mary opened herself up to the Divine Mother, she opened herself to the life, and to the joy, and to the grace, and to the love, and to the bliss. And so her soul magnified the Lord. We have to be open to that in our lives. A very simple way of nurturing us in our day-to-day lives. We can wake up and say, good God, it's morning. Or we can wake up and say, good morning, God. Good morning, God. What are we going to create today? How can we bring life into life? How can we beget life? Okay? That's what Mary did. Third thing, may sound like a contradiction, but it's just a balance. Mary knew how to sacrifice. Now, sacrifice is not about being masochistic. Sacrifice, if you go to the root word, it means to make sacred, to make whole, to make complete, to make divine. We sacrifice something lesser for something good. So let me put that in the context of Mary's life. I'm not a mother. I've never been a mother in this life. I'm a father. And I think it's a little bit different being a mother than a father. Okay? And this I can only imagine, I can't relate to. I'm going to put this into Mary's life in a moment. When you're a mother, the child comes from inside of you. I mean, you're carrying that child inside of you. Their life is unfolding inside of you. They literally come from you in a very literal and physical way. That's why there's something a little bit different about a mother's love than a father's love. Not better, not worse, just different. That's why often, like during wars and stuff, when soldiers are facing their death or they think they're going to die or they're dying, they don't cry, Daddy. Often they will cry, Mommy, Mother. Because our life comes from our mother physically. So there's something unique and a little bit different about a mother's love. So think about Mary. She loved Jesus, her only son. She loved him with her whole being. And she knew he had a special mission. But she loved him enough to let him go. She loved him enough to let him do his thing. She didn't cling on to this gift that God had given to her. She knew the gift was about something bigger than herself. She had to let him go. Even when it meant seeing her beloved son crucified on the cross. You can't imagine the pain that must have caused her. But she was able to let go, to sacrifice into God because she had faith that something bigger and better was going to come from it. What does that mean for us? We can't hang on to the life that God has given us. We have to give it away. We have to give it away. We have to give the life, the grace, the joy, the love that we have in service of something beyond ourselves. And paradoxically, that magnifies what comes back to us. The last thing, and it's kind of a dirty word in our culture, it's a 4-letter word. Okay? Literally, it's a 4-letter word. Mary was pure. She was pure. I'm not talking about being puritanical. She was pure. Innocent, pure. Think of our culture. We could use a lot more purity. There's so much vulgarity, so much ugliness, so much meanness, so much that is boorish. I wrote about it this week. We need to rediscover purity. And again, purity is not something constrictive. Not being puritanical. You recognize it when you see it. You know, I was in Assisi 2 weeks ago, and the place is just filled with an innocent purity. That's what we need to uncover. But what I want to tell you is that purity is strength. When I was in Italy a couple of weeks ago giving a retreat, there's a man that comes to the retreat all the time, and he's a very long-term practitioner of Kriya Yoga, a very saintly kind of person. And he shared this with me. And he said, I don't share this with many people. He said, sometimes he's visited by the devil. And he said, the devil's quite scary. He said, you never want to have that happen to you. And he said, it's like Padre Pio, a very humble man. He said, it's like Padre Pio, I'm fighting with the devil. Yogananda talked about dark spirits coming to him, rogue spirits at night. And he fought with them. And I said, well, what do you do? He said, the only thing that drives them away is I do the Hail Mary. And I said, why does that work? And he said, because she is the essence of purity. And purity drives out what is ugly and what is dark. So whatever this means to you, nurture purity in your life. And we have to nurture purity here at the Assisi Institute. Keep the vibrations high and pure, because that will draw more grace and it will keep the darkness away. All right. So those are part of Mary's biography of how she evolved. And we're called to evolve too. We're called to be in communion with divine Sophia, that feminine wisdom of God. And again, it's not a metaphor. She's a literal being like an angel, only at a higher level. So let me tell you about how the spiritual life works, and I'm going to connect this to Mary. The more we evolve in the spiritual life, the more responsibility we're given. I'm going to repeat that. The more we evolve in the spiritual life, the more responsibility we're given. We're given greater and greater things to do. Sometimes easy, sometimes hard. Again, a little example. You know, most of you know when I was 16, I moved in with a foster family. They had a farm, and my foster parents went on vacation one summer. I had my first summer job, so I was left in charge of the animals. They had cows and horses. And my foster father left me a long list of what to do in his absence, and at the bottom he wrote, concentrate very hard, because he knew I had ADD. Okay. Well, he came back, and I actually did a pretty good job taking care of the farm. And it was so sweet. He said to me, oh, now I can trust you with bigger things. That's how it is with God. All right, so what happened with Mary? She evolved. She came into the world a great being. Don't misunderstand me. But by the end, she was greater and greater and greater. In essence, she became, certainly in the West, but really for the whole world, she became the face of divine Sophia. She became the embodiment of the Divine Mother. We won't read it, but Mary appeared to a woman in Amsterdam beginning around 1952-ish till the early 60s. And the Catholic Church has said it was a valid apparition. They believe it was really Mary. And Mary gave a prayer for us to pray. And she gave herself a new title, Mother of all nations. Mother of all nations. And what's interesting, and this is a prayer that Mary gave, she referred to herself as formally being Mary, formally, in the past. But she had evolved into something greater. The personality of Miriam was still there, don't misunderstand me. But now she had become a pure instrument of the Divine Mother of Sophia in the world. She's become the mother of all of us, not just Catholics, not just Christians, all of us. In fact, Mary has also been appearing for the last 30 years to some visionaries in Medjugorje, which is part of the former Yugoslavia. And I love this. Early on, they were young kids when Mary was appearing to them. And she was telling them how to live their lives. And they said, can you tell us somebody that kind of embodies that? She didn't mention a Catholic woman. She said, you know the Muslim woman in your town? She is how I want you to live your life. She's the mother of Muslims. Okay? And then they asked her about other religions. And she said, God uses all of them to bring us home. So these, whether we're talking about Mary or Ananda Moyama, they are divine mother figures for all of us. And I'll keep it very simple. I'm moving towards a conclusion here. I don't care how old we are. You always need a father, and you always need a mother. I'm fortunate my foster parents are still alive. So I still have some human mother and father figures in my life. In fact, I got a sweet call from my foster mother yesterday telling me how much they loved me and Vicky. Okay, very sweet. But Yogananda is my spiritual father. He's my father figure. Okay? I listen to him. He's the authority in my life. And I need a mother. Mary's my spiritual mother. So I don't care how you get there. Everybody's way of getting there is a little different. Yogananda may not be your father figure, but you need some spiritual figure who will be that for you. And you need somehow some figure or some way of connecting to the grace of divine Sophia, the Divine Mother. And you need to nurture both of those in your life so that you can be complete and whole in your spirituality. Even people whose path to God is the jnana yogi, the yogi of wisdom, they need to love wisdom. Not just study it analytically. They need to be in love with wisdom. And what is wisdom? It's the divine Sophia in creation. They may not recognize it. So somehow, some way, we need that balance. And this is what I say to you. I stand on this. And I'll just use Yogananda and Mary. If you approach Yogananda as your spiritual father, he will take you under his wing, guide you, and protect you. If you take Miriam, as your divine mother, she will become a living presence in your life. And she will guide you and protect you. I've shared this with Vicky. Sometimes I sit down and just Yogananda's there. I can feel him. He's my father. And other times I sit there and it's Mary. She's just there. I don't see her, don't hear voices. It's a presence. I'm not special. I'm no holier than any of you. I'm just saying, if you nurture your connection with them, they will make their presence known in your life. I'll just close with this. No matter how old we are or how young we are, we always need a father and we always need a mother. We need the Heavenly Father and we need a Divine Mother. The divine in me bows before the divine in each one of you.